I want part of my legacy to be that I helped improve our industry. I applied to be in trade school, and I was nervous that I wasn't going to get in. And my guidance counselor told me, don't worry, even the bad kids get into that school. And I hated that. And I will never not remember that. Ever since then, I've always just wanted to prove that this isn't about the bad kids. This is, an industry, a career that is and should be respected.
We're in Omaha, last day. It's a little roundup here. Seven editions of the Contractor Coalition. What are your thoughts on how far the Contractor Coalition has come since Nashville 3 years ago?
I think it's crazy because we went to Nashville thinking it would be a one-time event. And I'm pretty sure Morgan had the second venue booked before we left Nashville, which I loved. And I was like, this is crazy. This was kind of a spur of the moment. Hey, do you think we can pull this off? 30 people show up, 30 people show up to the next one. And like you said, this is the seventh, and there's more than 30 people in that room this week. And I think when I look back and just think from Nashville to today, everything just continues to get refined. And the content, that was one of the things I was actually concerned with, is will the content get stale, or should we repeat the same thing over and over? And every time going into it, I quickly realized that there's going to be 1,000 questions that send us down all these different rabbit holes. So whether someone's been here before or it's their first time, it's unique on both sides. So.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think people keep coming back? You have a lot of alumni, obviously myself included, but not about me really. It's, we had the Penzacks, it's their fourth one. We had several that it was their third one. RJ, I think this was his fourth one. And I think we're 300 people strong now that have come through or been a part of the Contractor Coalition. And I would say, I don't know the exact numbers, but it seems like probably 40 to 60% of people go more to one. Why do you think that is?
I really think it's just the community and the ability to be in a room with people that are like-minded. You and I both know when you're in a room with people that think the way you think and want the things that you want, or going through the same things that you're going through, there's that sense of community and sense of support. We've had conversations that I haven't had conversations with anyone about. And it's because we have similar situations, or we're working through similar things, or we want similar things in our life. And when there's a concentrated amount of people that all share that, I think there's the desire to be part of that and continue to refine the details in one's life.
I've noticed, I think this is my fifth one, the chemistry of the people is so alike and so high. I think it comes from obviously a growth mindset. People aren't coming here if they aren't trying to improve themselves. And I don't think, regardless of where you are in the continuum of self-improvement, like when people see people trying to improve, like you want to help them on their journey. And it doesn't matter how far you are in it, because even the people at the top, so let's say yourself or the other hosts, there's still so much that you're picking up and learning.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the, when you get questions, and like sometimes I'll see Brad will say something, you're like, oh man, that's a good idea, I should do that.
I usually take my phone out and make a note. Like he mentioned something yesterday, and I opened my phone and I just was like, look this up when I get home. And I sent a couple notes to my team. Yeah. So even for me, I didn't let you get to your question, but even for me, it's, I'm absorbing a ton. And the goal is, you say that I'm at the top. I don't look at it that way. The goal is really, we're facilitating the event, and we all have something to contribute. There's a few people in here yesterday that were chatting through how they go through the hiring process, and they have it refined way more than I do. And the point of this is to have, bring the concentration of people together and build on that. And what I'm sharing is what I'm actively doing in my business, and I go home and I learn and I refine and I change things and I come back and then I talk about that. So it's really just this constant refinement of information.
one of the things that I've noticed is each one of the hosts has such a different business.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild. Let you answer the question. Was that by design or by happy accident?
Happy accident, yeah. I mean, because I think in some sense, Brad and I are very similar in the way we run our businesses, but then we build very different products and have different sized teams and do a handful of things very differently. So, yeah, just total happy accident.
The part that I really appreciate is, especially when you're up there and you probably look down the side and you're like, wow, this is a really cool group that has assembled, this following. And really, Brad Robbins I think said it best yesterday. He said, this isn't an event. He said, it's a community. And I think that's the strength, that people keep commenting on the discussions and the things that are happening outside the classrooms. Like, there's so much value here, not only what's in the classroom, what's happening in between the classroom, but then the relationships that extend, well beyond even this particular one. What are some relationships that have either altered your business or that have basically maybe altered your perspective, in a way that you've applied to not only maybe your life and business?
For me, I look at it really widespread, and I understand, the ability to be up there and kind of coach through what we're doing, but then the one-on-one conversations I'm having with people, oftentimes they're asking me for advice, but the conversation flips, and then I'm asking them, and we're just digging through, what makes them tick and what makes me tick. So everyone really has contributed to what I'm doing in my business and my life. And I think one of the things about being here is it's not just a classroom, and it's not just coaching. There is the sense of the social aspect of it, which I think is important. And because there's a tremendous amount of information that we're talking about, and we're trying to pack that into, 2.5 days, which is a long time. But then we stop, pause, go out, share a meal together, and enjoy one-on-one company with everyone. And that, I think, really balances the relationship building really well. So, I mean, to answer your question, I think, it just strengthens my relationship with everyone, yourself included, Brad, Morgan, Brad Robinson. Like, it's just building this sense of, friendship and the ability to kind of reach out at any time and work through something.
When you reflect and look at maybe past attendees, when you see them at our meetup at IBS, or you see them at another one and you see how their businesses have evolved, or you follow them on social media and you're like, wow, here they are now talking about pull plans, or here now they have their own podcast, or they see these brand deals. Like, what are your thoughts when you see that? Like,
I just think it's super cool, because ultimately I think a lot of people they need the permission to do it. Myself included, where sometimes you have these good ideas or want to do these things, and you just need someone else to tell you to do it. And that's because I don't think there isn't any magic sauce to this. It's really just refinement of little systems. It's the same reason I hired a professional coach. I didn't hire him and then magically have this business that was because of the one thing he taught me. It was about refining what I already had and getting the permission I needed to do the things that I thought made sense.
I think a lot of people, I don't know, I said
it's gonna ruin me. I'm gonna slow the fuck down.
One of the things that I've noticed and appreciate is that there's a large gambit of builder operations here. We have sole proprietors to production home to luxury home. And one of the things, a common thread that happens is people will say, maybe like they felt a little intimidated, like, oh, I don't belong in the room. But every single time, and every single person that does say, you know what, I'm gonna go anyway, they're all like, oh, this is way more approachable. For those that are listening that have not been a part of the Contractor Coalition, how do you sort of change our messaging to them so that they understand that, yeah, you have I mean, to me, I think that's kind of the wisdom and the genius behind having Tyler there. Not only is he an incredible educator, but he's still strapping on the bags and getting the work done. Speak a little bit to how that this community isn't really about where you're at in your journey. It's about helping you get to where you want to go.
Well, I think you asked how we could fix that messaging. I think the messaging needs to really be around anyone that wants to grow at any level. There, like you said, there's teams here that are doing less than $500,000 a year, and then you get other guys that are doing $500,000 a week, and the information is applicable to both of them. So I think from our side, we really want to open up that conversation that, hey, this is just, if you're in our industry, the building industry, and that can expand, right? That can be different builders, different type of contractors. But the point of this is we want to help you find the focus on what needs to be done in your business, and that is to help you scale. And I think scaling is definitely a buzzword right now, but scaling means you're growing, and growing doesn't necessarily mean more money or more people or more anything. It just means that you're growing and you're not staying status quo. And that is for everyone. That is for the guys that are doing less than $500,000 a year, the solopreneurs, and the guys that are doing $50 million a year and struggling to get systems behind their team or implement systems with their team, or they have the right people but they're not in the right seat. It's everything that we're constantly looking at internally on our business. And I think for us, we look at inspiration from, we get inspiration from a lot of other builders and contractors, and we're applying that to our business immediately and spending the time to refine it. And things like the Modern Craftsman and Brad's podcast and what Morgan does in the social media side, there's a lot of focus on what we're doing. So we're trying to capture that, refine it, and then give it back. And that's really, like I said, it's for everyone. It's if you are looking to grow, whatever that means to you, let us help you find the focus on what will allow you to do that.
We all, as business owners, I think obviously the most as humans, frankly, the most precious thing we have is time. Yeah. And you have a lot of businesses. In fact, every host has a lot of businesses, a lot of choices that they could make. Why do you continue to devote your time to this? And I know, because I know behind the scenes, that sometimes these are choices that are kind of made in the ninth hour, because we all have decisions where you're like, man, I've got this, that, and another thing, and I've really got to prioritize to my time to the thing that either gives me the best ROI, or perhaps it's my family, or just balancing all of these things. You've done 7 of these. When you thought it was going to be 1, why do you keep coming back personally?
I want part of my legacy to be that I helped improve our industry. I always go back to middle school when I applied to be in trade school, and I was nervous that I wasn't going to get in. And my guidance counselor told me, don't worry, even the bad kids get into that school. And I hated that. And I will never not remember that. And so for me, ever since then, I've always just wanted to prove that this isn't about the bad kids. This is, an industry, a career that is and should be respected. So my desire to leave a legacy behind building really cool homes is kind of coupled with this. I also want to be a respected, advocate for the construction industry.
I like that it started, that seed was planted so early. I've heard you speak before on the Modern Craftsman, or maybe it was at the Contractor Coalition. I can't frankly remember, because they all kind of go together. And is the combination of, there's no color to your shirt or to your collar, blue collar, white collar. And I think when you had said it, you had just come back from Europe, and you were just commenting about what a respected trades, specifically, let's say in Switzerland. And, culturally, there is something a little bit to what you just talked about. There is kind of self-loathing's the wrong word. There just isn't the same respect. And it's something that we all are actively trying to change in the industry, because there are some phenomenal operators that are very sophisticated, and seeing them grow, but a lot of it, you mentioned before, like people just need that little push. I think the number one theme, I asked, actually interviewed Doug from Motif, and I said, what is the common thread that you see? And he said, confidence. If I could sum it up for one thing, people leave here with more confidence, and confidence is contagious.
Yeah.
And it's kind
when
of.
you tell someone like, you can do this, they're like, I can? Like, yeah, you can do this. And they're like, all right, I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
100%. It's what fuels us. It's when someone believes in you, you know, even to the point of delusion, like you just drive towards that goal. So I think confidence is a great way to sum that up.
Mm-hmm. Where maybe as we kind of wrap this up, the future of the Contractor Coalition, what are some thoughts or ideas of directions you'd like to see it take? Other than it sort of self-evolves a little bit as people are added to it, new personalities like myself, Tyler, and you know, the economics of the world, right? I mean, we talked a lot about AI. I'd say half the interviews I've had specifically talked about, you know, how fast AI is making its way into construction. And just when you and Morgan specifically were talking about it, was just like, wow, I've got to get back and start implementing that. Yeah. But we're maybe just more from a structure standpoint or goals, what are some things that you'd like to see the Contractor Coalition sort of achieve?
I mean, I think, you know, for the Contractor Coalition, I would love to find a way to just make a bigger impact. And I think the bigger impact is by creating, you know, continuing to have these events, but build upon that. What happens in between? You know, that's one of the things that I realize when I attend an event or we host these events, is that, well, we've worked through all of this information. You know, someone said it. This is like a fire hose of information. And on one hand, that seems like a compliment. On the other hand, I'm like, but how do you implement that? If that's so much information, you know, that's a lot to go back and then focus on what to focus, or to realize what you have to focus on first. Because I've done it. I've been at an event. It was a one-day event. I'm not a note taker. I had 17 pages of notes. I sat in a chair for 12 hours, listened to like speaker after speaker after speaker. And that book still sits on my desk because I still reference it. But I didn't know which one I should go after when I got home. So for me, I think that, or for the Contractor Coalition, I think it's continuing to have these events, continuing to refine them and find what is the value to the attendees. You know, find the cadence, find the chronological order that makes sense to walk through information, and just constantly get feedback. You know, sit down and talk with people and understand, hey, what worked, what didn't, you know, what was helpful, what wasn't, you know, and is there anything missing? But then it's the in-between that I think will become something that we can help with. And whether that's events or Zoom meetings, or, you know, maybe it's just additional content that develops in the background that we share. So I feel as though we continue to just build this kind of powerhouse of information that we share with the community that is the Contractor Coalition.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, when you're interviewing people, this has been on my mind lately, and I was talking to Doug about this, do you find that, because I re-listen to my episodes every Monday to critique it and try to figure out ways to get better.
I've never listened to one of my episodes.
I know you don't, yeah. I was curious, like when I'm in the interview, if I had to put a percentage on what I'm retaining versus like a normal conversation where I don't have to really worry organically where it's going to go. Because as the host, we're trying to steer a little bit, or at least plan where it may or may not go, or you're thinking about your question and it changes. I would say probably 30 to 40%.
I'm less than that.
Less than that. So the same deal. So basically your mind is actively also working to like, where is this going? And yeah. Which
I don't enjoy. It's the conversations that I don't have to do that, other conversations I enjoy the most. And frankly, it's a big reason why I think Tyler and I when we do just us, our episodes do substantially better than when we have a guest. Unless the guest is, I mean, podcasting has changed so much where, when 3 years ago you would listen, you'd wait for the next episode to come out and you just listen to it. Now you listen or watch an episode based on who it is, but more importantly, what the topic is. Mm-hmm. So I listen to Chris Williamson, but if I see a topic that I'm not interested in, I just won't listen to that episode. But if it's an episode I'm interested in, yeah, I will listen to it. Where I think before it was just like people just would show up and just listen to whatever. So that has definitely changed in the podcast space.
Do you feel like your guys' growth rate is stabilized or actually down? I had mentioned
no, we're down.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, a normal episode for me, I think we just crossed 85,000 downloads total, but I really thought we would hit 100 last December at the trajectory we're on, and like somewhere between November and like March, it was just like, where is everyone? Yeah. And it was just weird. And then,
because of the shift in the way people listen to podcasts.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
the space there's more people in the space. And everything is about getting the attention to get someone to listen to the podcast.
I mean, the other thing is we added the Thursday 20-minute Q&A. That does just as well as the 1 hour. I did it for practice just because I'm not, believe it or not, a great monologuer. I'd rather interview and talk to somebody. Talking to yourself is something I said, well, I probably should practice that a little bit. And so that was kind of how I did it. But I was a little surprised that it's the same amount of downloads, which is sort of odd. It's been a great 4 days here in Omaha. It's pretty much a wrap. We're on our last day. And really looking forward to Chicago. I've had a number of people that are saying, you know what, I'm coming back for more.
Awesome.
So we'll see you in Chicago.
See you in Chicago.
Let's go. If you're interested in attending the Contractor Coalition in the future, please head to contractorcoalitionsummit.com or follow us on Instagram to find out more.